What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of The Remote Real Estate Investor. I'm Michael Album, and today I'm joined by Monique Kelly, who is our Roofstock certified agent out in Jackson, Mississippi. And she's going to be talking to us about all of the things we as investors need to know and what we should be aware of as we're getting involved in the Jackson market. So let's get into it. Hey, everyone. Just a real quick shout out before we get into the episode today. On Wednesday, June 15th at 5 p.m. Pacific time, I'm going to be hosting a group coaching session inside the Roofstock Academy. So that is for all of our Academy members on short-term rentals. So we're going to get together. I sent out a message in Slack. I'll be sending everyone an email as well. For those in the Academy, keep your eyes peeled. If you are not already a member of the Roofstock Academy, I definitely encourage you to come check us out at roofstockacademy.com. And you can even come participate in this first group coaching session and learn quite a bit more about what we have to offer. Look forward to seeing y'all in there. Hey, Monique Kelly, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and chat with me today about the Jackson, Mississippi market. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I'm so excited to be on with you today.
Me too. So let's just jump right into it, and then we'll circle back to your background. Why should people be excited about the Jackson, Mississippi market?
Well, it has historically been a really great market for rental properties. People tend to pay a pretty high price point for rentals. I don't really know why, but historically that's been the way it is. And so, it's a great place to invest. The property prices are not too high, but the rent values are pretty high. So, it's a growing area as well. So, just a good area to invest in.
Love it. And give us a little bit of background on who you are as an individual and where you come from and what is it that you're doing in real estate today?
Well, I grew up here in Mississippi. My family has been in real estate. So I've been around real estate since I was in diapers. My dad started the company about 40 years ago. And he started our company with my grandmother and my aunt. And so I've just been around it my whole life. I started selling real estate right outside of college and worked with my mom for several years. We were kind of a team. She since has retired, and I do this full time. I've been selling since 2007. So and then in the past I'd say 3 or 4 years, my main focus has been investors. And most of them are from out of state. So it's been interesting, pretty crazy ride, but I really love it.
Awesome. And I think most of our listeners may not know the difference between what an investor buyer client versus an owner occupant buyer client looks like. So why did you make the shift to work with investors? And what are some of the differences that you found?
Well, it kind of was just something that happened, honestly. I'd started working with some local investors, and then I got a call, an open door with Roofstock. And so I kind of had a little bit of the experience. And my family, they've all been investing, as long as I can remember. They've owned lots of rental properties, and so I've seen it firsthand. And I've seen, what a great income that can be for people. And so once I started working with Roofstock, it just kind of blew up, and that's been my main focus. It's great that I get to meet people from other areas of the country and even of the world, and get to share the great things about Mississippi, and most have never been here. So, it's just great to introduce them to Mississippi and the market here. And they're usually pretty shocked with the value of the homes that they can purchase here and get good rent and everything. So, but they are different than owner occupants. Of course, they're looking at cash flow and they're looking at numbers. And so I try to find really good deals in properties that are in great shape. So there's not a lot of maintenance up front or issues in the beginning, and try to find a good product for them, a good solid product that's going to bring in some good income. So Jackson is in what's considered Hinds County. It's central Mississippi. And then around it, you have Madison County and Rankin County. And so the population would be, the large population would be in all three of those counties. I would say the main, probably steady jobs come from government jobs. It is the state capital, so we have a lot of state government jobs, and then we have local government jobs. I would say probably number 2, the employment would be medical. We have a ton of hospitals. We've got the big teaching hospital in Jackson. So you have a lot of med students, nursing students, dental students, and then you've got nurses and doctors and just a lot of people in the medical field that live around here. And then I'd also say trucking is another big industry here. We are centrally located. So if you go north, you hit Memphis. You go south, you hit New Orleans. If you go west, you're going to hit Dallas. And if you go east, you're going to hit Atlanta. So you have a lot of traffic and truckers coming through. And so that is actually a big source of jobs here as well.
Interesting.
So in Canton, which is part of Madison County, Amazon is building a facility. So that will be a new source of jobs pretty soon. We do have a Continental Tire factory in Clinton, Mississippi, which is part of Hinds County. So there are some other things, but it's pretty diverse here, most of the jobs.
Fantastic. So for anyone listening, we're going to be doing a kind of walkthrough of Jackson, Mississippi. So take it away, Monique. Where should people be looking to find some of those cash flowing rentals, and what neighborhoods are you most excited about?
Well, okay, so I would kind of break it down in the 3 counties. So you've got sort of like the higher income, higher rent county would be Madison County. And if you look, it's kind of up north of 55. You'll see Madison there. And if you look up where Gluckstadt is, right above it, that is actually a brand new city. So it was part of Madison. It still has Madison address, but it just became a city. They've just voted for a sheriff, and they're going to vote for a mayor. And that part of Madison is growing major. I mean, there are new restaurants coming and just a lot of growth in that area. And it's actually not in the city limits. So you tend to have lower taxes. It's part of the county. And that area is where you're going to get the top rents in the whole Jackson metro area. The schools are some of the top schools in the state, and that's a big reason why people want to be there. And so I would say on average, the rent in that area is going to be around $2,300 a month would be the median.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
For like a 3-2 kind of run-of-the-mill home? Okay.
Yeah. You're looking at maybe 1,600 to 1,700 square feet, and you're probably going to get around $2,300 a month for that property.
Right on. And where are you seeing purchase prices?
The median purchase price is around $363.
All right. Cool.
So, but you're able to get a property for under $300, maybe $250 to $300, and rent it out somewhere between $2,300 to $2,500. So also, of course, if you get 4 bedrooms, you're going to get closer to $3,000 for it. So.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah. So that's a great area. I would say probably the middle part would be Rankin County, which if you go down where you'll see Brandon.
Yep.
Close to 25. I don't know if you see Highway 25 right there. That's going to be in Rankin County.
Okay.
And I would consider that sort of kind of like in the middle of the 3 counties. And in that area, I would say the median rent you're going to get is around $1,700.
Okay.
You could probably get close to $2,000 or a little more depending on the size of the house, how new it is. And there are a lot of new houses in that area as well. So there's growth in there too. And they have great schools too.
Great.
And I would say the average price for a house would be around $270.
Okay.
And then I would say, so then after that would be Hinds County, and that's where Jackson is. And it's pretty diverse. I mean, you've got little pockets in there that are going to be a little different. And so the numbers I kind of pulled are pretty broad. But for Hinds County, you're looking at an average rent of around $1,350. some of the areas you might get a little more. You might get closer to 1,700, like in Clinton over here. It's kind of like its own little community. There's a university there, and it's actually where I went to school at Mississippi College University. And so it's a little bit different than the rest of Hinds County. But
Okay.
And the average price for a house there would be around $207,000.
Okay. Right on. So kind of starting to approach that 1% rule, so to speak.
Yeah. You'll probably get a little bit more cash flow in Hinds County. But the houses tend to be older. There tends to be a little bit more maintenance and things there. But any of those counties are great areas to invest in.
Perfect. And talk to us a little bit, Monique, about how property taxes work out if the three counties vary drastically or if statewide it's kind of similar.
Well, so we do have homestead exemption in Mississippi. And so, that pretty much cuts taxes in half for an owner occupant. And so, an investor is going to pay almost double than what an owner occupant pays. And each area is different. It depends on if it's in the city, the county, what fire district it's in. And so when I upload properties to Roofstock, I try to do all of that up front and put the investor's tax amount into the, Roofstock website so that they're getting the accurate amount.
Okay.
And so I'm able to do that sometimes on the tax records. They'll let me do a tax estimator type thing. And so it just varies depending on the location, how I get the taxes, but.
Okay. And let's just take a kind of shot in the dark for a $250,000 purchase price. What are you estimating ballpark for taxes? Is it 1% of the purchase price? Is it some other number? How should folks be thinking about that?
In Jackson, it's a lot higher. So a property in Jackson, well, and it also depends. So in Mississippi, they don't base it on the actual value of the property. They have an assessed value, and it typically is about 80% lower than the actual value. So what I do is I go look at the tax records, figure out the actual assessed value, and then I can base it off of that. So it just depends. In Jackson, you're going to pay city taxes, which tend to be a little higher, county taxes and school taxes. In Madison, some of the areas you wouldn't pay city, it would only be county and school. And so it can vary a lot with that. But I do try to give an accurate amount when I input any properties so that they know that up front. Or if an investor's interested in a property and is curious about the taxes, I'm happy to make sure to give them an accurate amount as well. Okay,
fantastic. Well, that's a really good point to make about the homestead exemption. So for anyone listening out there, if they go on Zillow and find an owner-occupant home and look at the tax record and think, oh, great, this is the amount I'm going to pay, they should at least be doubling it. And then, Monique, does the assessed value change on any kind of regular frequency? Like here in California, anytime the property is sold, that's when they reassess the property at the price point at which it was purchased. So does a sale trigger reassessment, or is it just every couple of years, or how does that work?
It's every couple of years. The sale does not trigger it. So I think it's every 4 to 7 years it gets reassessed. Okay,
fantastic. And talk to us about some of the things that are kind of maybe nuanced or unique to Jackson or maybe Mississippi in general when it comes to home inspections. In California, we have termites. That's a very common thing. So if you see termites, it's not the end of the world as long as the damage isn't super extensive. But if you're not used to that, that can make investors run to the hills. So what should people expect to find? What's kind of par for the course in the Jackson market when it comes to home inspections?
Okay, so in central Mississippi, we have what's called yazoo clay in the soil. And it can cause a lot of foundation issues, just settlement in general. I would say in older homes, it's more common. Now they pretty much will do soil tests, dig up, so many feet of the clay and put in good soil. So you don't typically see it with newer properties. You might see a little bit of settlement, like a little cracking here or there, but it's not anything major. But some of the older homes, like in Jackson or even some in Brandon and Madison, depending on the age, it's a little bit more common. And so there's a lot of houses that have had foundation work or they might need it. And so I do try to steer people clear from that, just because it can be an ongoing thing. Once you repair it, doesn't guarantee that you won't have more movement, because that clay, it's going to expand or shrink depending on how wet it is. And we have a lot of rain here in Mississippi. So, I do try to steer clear of that, but I can usually tell, we can look at, engineer reports and see how extensive the movement is. If it's within so many inches, like 3 inches, it's not really anything major. But more than that, and it can become a pretty major thing. We also have termites in Mississippi.
Love it.
So I do see some of that, but as long as it's not extensive damage, it's typically okay. So
okay.
Those are probably the 2 major things that you would want to look for.
Great. And what about natural disasters? And this might be a silly question, but do you all have hail down there, or tornadoes or hurricanes or any of that sort of thing?
We don't typically get the hurricanes. We're a little too far north from the coast, but we do get hail damage and some wind damage. We can get some pretty straight line winds, and there are tornadoes that come through here. So people might notice, if they start looking at disclosures, that roofs are pretty much replaced pretty frequently, and it is due to hail damage. You'll get a storm that comes through, and you'll notice in a certain area all the roofs got replaced around that time period. So, but that's pretty much it. We pretty much have mild weather here. We don't get a lot of snow. If we get shut down if we get any snow, because it's so rare. And but we do get a lot of rain. It's pretty wet here, and we do get some tornadoes and things like that here.
Okay. Awesome. And kind of in thinking about some of the natural disasters, and it leads me down the insurance path. What do you see? Do you have like a ballpark estimator for what insurance costs are in Jackson?
I mean, I would say it just depends on the price of the house, how new the house is, how new the roof is. But for a newer house, like around, I don't know, $300,000, the insurance would probably be about $1,000, somewhere around there.
Okay. Awesome. That's great. And for everyone listening who is interested in the Jackson market, definitely be looking at your wind or hail deductibles. Oftentimes those policies have a different deductible, which is different than the fire. So if in a high prone area, the insurance company say, no, you got to pay a higher deductible for this kind of stuff. So that's great to know. Monique, tell us any final thoughts, things that people should be aware of, tips, tricks, advice for folks how to be competitive in today's market, or things they could do better in working with you as they're making offers.
Yeah, so I recently pulled up to see how much inventory we currently have. And so right now for Rankin County, we've got about 1 month's worth of inventory. And then I also pulled up the rentals, and we've got about 1.9 months worth of inventory. So almost 2 months. For Madison, for homes for sale, we've got about 1 month of inventory. And then for the rentals in Madison, we've got about 1.5 months worth. Hinds County, we've got 2 months inventory of houses for sale, and for the rentals, about 2.5 months. And so it's still a really competitive market. There's still a lot of buyers that haven't been able to purchase anything yet, so they're still looking. Still have a lot of investors trying to invest here, and so there's still multiple offers. And so you have to make competitive offers, to have a chance. And so most are going to sell for above list price right now. And I would say the biggest thing that has helped me when writing offers and getting them accepted is, if it's not cash, then to add an appraisal clause where you're willing to pay the difference between appraisal price and purchase price. And we often cap it just so that the investor feels comfortable with it. But that has been the most successful tool in getting offers accepted. And it just helps them be competitive with the cash offers that don't have those contingencies.
Okay. And so for anyone that's not familiar with what Monique is talking about, let's break it down. So let's say you're going to go buy a $150,000 house and you say, okay, I'm willing, and the bank with a bank loan, and the bank is going to come appraise the house, and the bank is only going to lend you 80%, say, of what the value of the home is. So if the bank comes in and says, hey, actually the house is only worth 140 grand, they're only going to give you 80% of 140. And so you've got to come up with that difference to get to that 150 purchase price. That's what you're talking about, right?
Right. Yeah. And it's usually not much difference. We're talking 5 to 10,000, that somebody would be willing to pay the difference for. So I'm not seeing appraisals come in much lower than that. They usually come in at contract price, honestly, but it just gives that
amazing
seller
how
the
that
assurance
happens.
that they're going to, yeah, exactly. But it just gives that seller the assurance that they're going to make a certain amount. And that's very appealing when there's other offers on the table.
Okay. Great to know. And how many days on market are you seeing most of the properties sit for? I mean, are they getting swooped up within hours of getting listed, or is it a week? I mean, how fast should people be prepared to move?
I would say usually within 1 to 2 days, those houses are pending. So, as soon as it goes on the market, I would make the offer. Sometimes they're giving about 3 days, but at that point they have so many offers to shuffle through. A lot of sellers are choosing to do it quicker than that, just so they don't have to continue with the showings and go through so many offers. So, yeah, I'd say a day or two.
Okay. So for everyone listening out there, be ready to move quick, have your pre-approval letters, have your proof of funds ready to go, and be making strong offers. That's good to know. Well, Monique, thank you so much for taking the time. If people want to learn more about you or reach out to you directly, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can email me, Monique@Mazzelle.com, and it's MONIQUE @Mazzelle, MASELLE.com. Or you can call me. I have my phone with me pretty much all the time at 601-941-4447.
Amazing. Well, Monique, thank you again for sharing so much wisdom and knowledge about the Jackson market. I'm sure we'll be chatting soon.
Thanks so much for having me.
Now, you got to take care. Okay, everyone, that was our episode for today. A big thank you to Monique for coming on and dropping so much knowledge and wisdom about the Jackson market. Sounds super interesting and wild that things are still flying off the shelf. So go get them while they're hot. As always, if you like the episode, feel free to leave us a rating or review wherever it is you get your podcasts. And we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Happy investing.